This is a regular meeting of the Town of Walpole Board of Sewer and Water Commission, Monday, November 21st, 2022. We have an agenda here. The first item, we have had abatements, and their abatements are being passed.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Commissioners?
abatements.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Okay, 401. We'll have the superintendent's status report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with the change in the season, with winterized Jarvis Farm, Adams Farm, and the cemeteries, update on the water main replacement program. Pilgrim Way has been pressure tested and disinfected. We collected samples this morning and sent to the lab, so we're still awaiting results for that. So we're making progress. We had a minor service leak on Barbara Drive on November 9th, and we also had just recently a water main break around the corner on South Street near Tufts. That was a 8-inch water main with a circle crack, and the guys hopped right on it. They got that repaired quick. Washington 6, the generator is scheduled to start up on December 7th, as well as training. And Old Post Road generator is scheduled for December 16th. So those are nearing start of completion. The Phase 2 skater project continues. The Eleanor Road sewer rehabilitation is 97% complete. We're waiting on a component in the control cabinet to wrap that up.
Does that get inspected?
By the on-site engineer, yeah.
Okay.
So the question was brought up about permitting, whether permits are issued by the inspector's office without us getting a chance to see them, and that's not the case. Right now, a lot of things are moving onto that viewpoint cloud. So it comes to our office and we get the opportunity to see it and make sure that all applicable fees have been paid. And it's good with our department. And other than that, all the routine tasks and maintenance continue to be performed.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? What's going on over at June Street?
June Street, we've given notification to the residents that work will start up either this coming Monday or the Monday following, depending how things break down with Pilgrim Way. But they have been notified to expect it either next week or the week following.
Okay.
That's the continuation of the project that we did for Pilgrim Way.
Exactly.
June.
Yeah.
Is there somebody that was done before Pilgrim Way, and who comes
No.
after June?
Pilgrim Way was the first, June the second, along with the drainage. After that, I believe, is Rhodes Ave,
Yeah.
and then we're moving up to Walnut Street.
Okay.
So where the majority of the complaints were sourced, that's what we're taking care of.
All right, thanks.
Well, that'd be a good one there. This post Thanksgiving time, June Street, the neighbors are usually skating on the street over there.
I know.
Okay. Being 6:35, we have an appointment with Stefan Fry, owner of Car Wash 757 Main Street. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very impressed you pronounced my last name correctly. That's well done. I'm usually Stephen Frey. Thank you for taking the time to hear me. Yeah, as I stated in my email, just to be completely transparent and blunt about the situation, we're in survival mode right now. We've been obviously hit with the pandemic, and then kind of parlayed that right into the Route 1A construction, which in a lot of ways has been worse. We're reliant on traffic to go by that location on a regular basis. Where, if you got to go to the hardware store or you've got to get a tuxedo fitting, you're going to figure out how to get there and make your way there. But people are regularly avoiding that stretch of 1A as much as possible, and we're feeling the effects of it. So that's no one here can do anything about that. That is what it is. So I guess I have two sort of asks. One is some immediate relief of the bill that we owe as of the end of fiscal year 2022, which is due by the end of November, I believe. And then I guess the bigger discussion would be just the big picture. I fully support water conservation. We reclaim water at our car wash, but the reality is we are 100% reliant on water. And there is a tiered system in place, which in all accounts makes perfect sense, but not for us as a car wash. We can't control, that aspect of it to the degree that would get us into a lower tier. So my second ask is to, if there's some discretion on the board to reduce the rate that we're charged on an ongoing basis, it would be extremely, extremely helpful.
Okay. Thank you. Well, we're going to go around and have the commissioners all comment. Are you the original owner?
I bought the car wash in October of 2014.
Okay.
The chart they handed out, by the way, is the usage, it's for this car wash.
Okay. We have an economic development director. He's a community and economic development director. I don't know if you've ever talked to him, Patrick Duquesne.
I have not, no.
The reason I say that, there was a list published in the local paper, Medfield paper, back about 5 months ago, that enumerated all the Walpole businesses that have been given relief from COVID that applied. And there were substantial amounts of money, $200,000, $500,000, $400,000 for COVID impact. I don't know if you were able to avail yourself of any of that. But if our Director of Public Works was here tonight, he apparently isn't here, he's familiar with the Route 1 program for the state and their responsibilities. And I think there might be some mitigation funds that people can apply for if their businesses are obstructed, inhibited, somehow disrupted. And you might want to look into that, and I think Patrick could probably help you with that.
Okay.
Just as though just some covering points, but why don't we go around?
I just on that point real quick, Mr. Chairman, I did ask Mass DOT if there was any such financial assistance for businesses that are impacted by the construction, and they said there was not, to their knowledge. They said they were a non-compensatory state. When construction impacts a business, there is no financial assistance that they.
You spoke to somebody on site, or did you talk to Boston?
No, Mass DOT, not someone on site, just
okay.
the Mass DOT folks that I've been in dialogue with ever since they started this thing.
Okay. Bill, you want to?
Yeah, I guess I was charting back your usage starting back in May of 2019.
Yep.
I think that didn't, the construction, I don't think had started at that point. And it sort of, in fact, the highest, what I was tracking was your usage on your bills. And the one that was in May, why don't you give, the one that would have been in May, the bill in May of 2022 was like the highest amount of usage. So I'm just curious as to what has fallen off. They sort of look, this cycle, it's sort of cyclical as you would expect usage this season versus another season.
So that's usually right around our peak period because of pollen.
Yeah. This would have been, the bills would have been, for your highest,
Yep,
would have been from January 2022 to April 2022, where you used 124,290 cubic feet.
well, we did implement, our membership program
Mhm.
not that long ago. So we have, if we do, the customers that we do have right now seem to be membership customers that could continue to come
Right.
back and take advantage of their monthly membership fee. I can't speak directly to, any other cause than that, but we are definitely feeling the effects. I ran an analysis just, since I purchased this was actually through the third bill of 2021. And our total costs as a percentage from 2014, so there's only a little bit of usage when I owned it, has gone up almost 35% from 2015 to 2021.
Your usage, or what?
No,
The
not,
usage?
not our usage, the cost
Oh, the cost,
of
okay.
water.
Right,
Yeah, cost of water.
yeah.
Um,
The other question I'd have is, there's 3 car washes that use Walpole's water. Yours and another one are close, or either just a little bit above 2 million cubic feet or just below. And then there's another one, the most recent one out on Route 1, it was like 200,000. I mean, a huge difference. Is there a difference
Rojo's?
between your recycling and what the Rojo one out in Route 1?
The new one?
Yeah.
I don't know what I couldn't tell you what they have.
I know when they came before us, they said that, you know, lots and lots of their water gets recycled.
Yeah,
And there's just a dramatic difference between yours, the one that's near Walmart, and the one out on Route 1 on the
the
road.
Walmart one, isn't that, is that Walpole or Shea?
Yeah, that's Walpole.
Oh, okay. I don't know what they have for reclaim systems. We have definitely an older reclaim
Yeah,
system.
that's, yeah.
But I can't afford to put a new one.
Well, no, I know that. I was just curious as to how much recycling you were doing, and again, I would agree with you probably to rip out your whole system and put in
I'd love to.
an
Yep.
up-to-date one.
Yeah.
But
Yep, at some point, I would love to.
Jeff?
It looks like the last payment made was somewhere in the, I don't know, early 2021, the 12,722.
No, I've been trying to make some,
Everything looks
So-
past due and cumulative on top of that, up to current.
no, I made a payment.
I did
Not-
talk to the collector, and there have been partial payments.
Yeah, I've made
made.
partial payments.
Yeah,
Yep.
but certainly not enough to dent what the past due just keeps growing, so it isn't
Yeah, I
able
made
to-
a 10,000 payment in June 15th, 4,000 in July 26th, and a 4,000 in August 17th. And I think August 17th was my last payment.
Yeah, it doesn't help. What does the town charge on overdue bills, 14%?
That I didn't ask, but,
Yeah.
I mean, I know when, in other situations, we've never had something this big, but a homeowner, the collector's office says, look, pay as much as you can, as often as you can. Don't wait for 3 months on a bill. If you can pay something weekly, monthly, or whatever, you're cutting into the interest as opposed to waiting for a bill, oh, let me pay something. Well, you just had 3 months' worth of interest that you could have at least mitigated to some extent. Obviously, unless, it depends on the amount you're paying, but,
I guess there's two levels or two dimensions to look from it at this. One is kind of the global, the overview of the problem. And that, we have an annual rate formulation hearing every year where people like yourself can come in and make the case for some sort of rate amendment or some category for rates that would fit your particular segment of the market or your particular business type or style. The other one is, and I'm not trying, I'll get back to your specific urgency, but the other one is to speak with the head of Public Works, Rick Mattson. It's my understanding that really the responsible party for Route 1A is really not Mass DOT, it's Norfolk County. And I clearly have been told by selectmen that certain businesses were getting some relief. Now, I don't know if they're getting, who they're getting the relief from. I don't know if it's Commonwealth, DOT, Norfolk County.
Okay.
But that's worth investigating, and he would be the person, Rick Mattson would be the person to know that. And yeah, I would strongly also recommend you speak with, again, the Director of Community and Business Development, because he knows, he's familiar with, he came from Norwood, he knows a lot about the different projects, Route 1 as well as 1A, and the underlayment of all that, might be able to help as far as aid packages. Even going back, if you missed something on the small business relief from COVID, it's not too late to go back and try to claw some of that back to help yourself. The other, from the more immediate issue, I mean, I don't know, is it feasible for them to put in a well?
It's possible.
That might be a way to mitigate some of your excessive water use.
Yeah.
And if I were New Hampshire, I'd tell you to tap right in the river that's 10 feet off your property line, put a point out there, and see if we can solve things that way. But, no, those are just,
You know, you said a lot, but H&V takes water from the river, and, because they have both a water and a sewer account, and then they have a sewer-only account. And the sewer-only is huge because they are taking water out of the, now, of course, they may be grandfathered for, being able to do such a thing, but it's,
that's right. Hollingworth and
But
Vos he's talking about
Yeah.
over in East Walpole. H&V, Hollingworth and Vos, it's a big paper company
Okay.
on Washington Street. And they do something along those lines as far as using the water from the river. And I'm just throwing some ideas here to you. I know that as far as the immediate situation, I'm not sure what financing kind of relief there might be. Again, the administration handles more the town finances beyond us. I mean, we set the rates and do the process, but ultimately, as far as collections and that type of thing, it's pretty much up to the administrative section of the town. But I think, again, the economic and business development director could possibly help you with that area. Do you want to say something?
No, I'm just saying, like, the board does not have much, power to give you rebate or anything, except that you can come on rate hearing and ask for some correct rate or, the rates for the bulk consumer. You should reach out to the town officials, select board and other boards also, who are basically doing the projects in the Route 1, and they may help you. There are ARPA funds also, which was given to the town to recover from the whole COVID situation. So you should check whether those funds are available for business or not.
Okay.
Okay. Patrick?
Yeah, you also discharge into the sewer, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is not just a water bill?
Yeah,
This
double.
is-
Yeah.
Yeah, we understand.
But it's not a one-to-one, that's the other thing. It's not a one-to-one. We get charged one-to-one, but it's not a one-to-one.
And we understand what you wrote out here. Thing is too, if we were to do something for you, how many other
Again,
car washes are there in the town?
Two others.
Two others.
Two others.
Two
Big
others.
one, yeah.
No, there's three, right?
There's a total of three.
Three
Yeah,
total.
yeah. So we would wind up we can't give you special dispensation. But what I do think, because your situation is a little bit unique, is what the chairman was talking about, some type of state reimbursement. That seems to me about the only way that you could recover or ameliorate your water rate here. I think the person you need to talk to would be either Scott. Do you have any information on that, or do you have we given anybody a state reimbursement for their water use?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you know anything about it, or anything?
No.
So, the town administrator might know, Mr. Johnson. And he would be the one who would know if there's any funds, maybe even ARPA funds. We don't know if that's, could be part of it.
Yeah, that would be something, again, with the economic development, community development director, he could ask the selectmen for ARPA assistance if it meant a potential loss of a business or something like that. He could possibly make a case for some short term. But I think strategically, you have to think broader about the global, how you're gonna solve this going forward for the next 10 years, what are you gonna do? Because I can just guarantee you the water rates are gonna continue to go up. Unfortunately, there's no relief coming that way. You get more and more regulations every day. To pull a drop of water out of the ground, you think you're mining gold. So, you know, I don't know, maybe down the road, maybe the well idea doesn't fancy you, but, you know.
No, well, yeah, just,
You know,
it costs money.
I know what I guess I'm saying, I have empathy for you, so we're not the finance department, so we can't say, we're gonna suspend your payments for 6 months or something. I wish we could, but
So
I don't think we can.
With respect, so, first of all, I've never, I own a couple other businesses, I've always paid my bills, I wanna honor that, and I wanna get that bill paid. We have the car wash has a line of credit, it wouldn't cover all of that, but I'm gonna use all of it to pay what I can. Is there any way that this board has the ability to waive the interest portion only?
I was gonna ask, and I was talking to Lisa today, and I had written it down and forgot to ask the question, but there may be an issue, a legal issue. There are a lot of laws dealing with what you can do and how much interest and what you can do, but have you talked to the Finance Commission, not the Collector's Office?
No, I thought that,
Because I think she mentioned something about an abatement, which I said that's not our area, you know, a property tax abatement. I don't know if you've got a problem over there also, or not.
No, I don't. I'm
Yeah.
current with everything else.
Yes. But it would be worthwhile to see what the, if there is any possible thing, and then it might come back to us to see, do we want to waive interest or whatever. But we first want to talk to the town collector to see, but
No.
I think on other items
can't meter the
that
sewer.
she has mentioned, that there are, you know, state regulations that she can't violate in terms of, you know, changing the interest rate or not collecting interest or whatever, so. But it's worth pursuing, I think, your idea of talking to probably particularly Rick, if there is any other.
But there's only one problem with that.
What?
You know, these are public meetings, they're very transparent. And if people can say, oh gee, I'll just not pay this and build up the interest, but I won't be, you know, I won't have to pay it. I can keep this and use this capital.
Oh, I understand.
Okay, so
I
that's
understand,
just-
but,
Just to,
Right.
you know, it's a good idea, and it's possible, but then again, we need to make sure that we have a level playing field.
and you know that I'm always about, you know, setting a precedence, and on this issue, it would fit into the same thing. We have to be careful on that. Because I know you say you've paid your bills, but, you know, we've got copies of them, and at least on this,
No,
water.
I'm just saying I've made payments, I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm trying whenever I can.
yeah, and I know that you have made some payments. And
Yeah.
I know that that is the standard answer when we have people that get behind. They say, make payments as frequently and as often as you can and as much as you can. rather than waiting for the next bill.
I also thought that those payments I was making would have gone towards what was past due, but it looks like, I think they went to whatever bill.
There is some pecking order, and the town collector can explain that. And again, I don't know if there's
So
a way
that's-
to change that, or whether that's something that's written in the law.
That's another,
The-
yeah.
I looked at, when I looked at your bills, and I was thinking for 90 days, it turns out like it's costing you $120 to $180 a day for water.
Correct, yeah.
But then I was thinking, yeah, but that's, your business is water. I mean, somebody else might have 3 extra employees per day or something like that. It's part of your, you know, it's not as bad as it looks at first, the size of your water bill, because it's really, it's your product.
Yeah.
But the increases in the interest rates are a serious thing. And I think the other thing is how it's calculated and the regulations are requiring you to put the stuff in the sewer. And the other thing would be maybe some supplemental type of recycling system that could supplement what you have to reduce, you know, the gallonage. Somebody might give you a lease on a system, and over time, it's gonna save you money. I don't know if there are consultants in the car wash business that could, maybe they could figure that part out.
But is there a way to meter the outgoing sewer, just so you have it, so I know water consumption versus sewer?
Yeah, we don't actually meter the sewer, we meter the water coming into the property. And if you can prove that it's not going into the sewer, then like a irrigation, like lawn watering, then that can be taken off that. But if you're not using it for anything outdoors, I mean, potentially you have wash bays,
We do,
that
yeah.
type of thing. I'm sure they'll go to floor drains, so it goes into the sewer.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so that won't apply. But if you can prove that there's a water use that takes place that doesn't go in the sewer, then that might be a benefit too.
Well, what if he put a meter on the sewer pipe?
It's gonna read the same thing as what's coming in. Because he's
Not
not, it's not
necessarily,
going
it might
anywhere
be
else.
evaporating, we don't know where the water's going, I mean, you might, who knows? I don't know
There's
if
just
that's
some-
really.
There's loss, you know, there's water on the cars they pull out, there's water on the.
Yeah, we're only charging 85% of the water
Yeah.
Right.
on the sewer.
Just.
You're better on the recycling, I think.
We charge 85%,
This,
85% of your water usage towards the sewer.
remember the
I
business.
thought it
that
was the
came
same number.
to us?
85%.
And the gentleman who
That's-
owned the
that's just
business said, I shouldn't be charged this much sewer rate, because people come in and drink my beverages, don't use the facilities there. They go someplace
Yeah,
else
you're
and
right,
use
Jeff.
it, which is kind of right. But I think we decided, we made a precedent that we would not do that.
Right. But if you put, Patrick Duchesne, again, he would be able to help you far as, if you look at this longitudinally, next June or whenever, when we have a rate hearing, maybe help you think about how to structure something that's used in other towns that relates to heavy water usage businesses like a car wash. And maybe we could,
Is there
some
some-
pricing
have you-
strategy could be worked out.
Have you heard of this, that ever being used at another town, a specific category?
I haven't, because what we have here is, we have Siemens, they're a big user. We want to collect every penny because we gave them a TIF for like $20 million.
The other thing is,
21 million.
it's like a balloon, you
You know,
squeeze
we
it
wanna
on one
get money-
end,
we wanna
it's
get
got a
money from
balloon
them.
somewhere else. That's the other issue of, if we're able to lower it on some group of users, it's gotta be made up elsewhere, because we have to come up with the revenue to fund the
I'm
operation.
not saying that, but
No, but
I
I'm
think
just
he's
saying
talking
that-
marginally.
yeah.
Incrementally, and when
Yeah.
you fall behind, it becomes a snowball going
Oh, yeah.
downhill, and you're just
Yeah.
picking up.
Yeah.
But I think there are some nuggets out there, and I wouldn't discount the fact that there's either Norfolk County or some government entity other than Mass DOT may be offering mitigation.
Okay. I'll look
Because
into
it
that.
certainly is logical what you're saying.
Yeah.
It does impact you.
Speaking of impact, I don't know how the business actually works, but as far as an economic impact, do you track how many vehicles go through the facility, so you can have a comparison and say that once this project started, on 1A.
Yeah.
We've seen, instead of 1,000 vehicles, we've seen, I don't know the numbers, 500 or 750. Rather than us just look at the number of cubic feet of water
Right.
that went through, if you can show that statistic as well,
Yep.
saying here's a direct correlation to my business dropping off in number of units.
Yep.
There's another
We
guy.
don't track the bays, but we do track the
Right.
Because that would make the case for you, you know, some data points for you about how it's impacted your business by number of cars,
Yeah.
reduction. But we do have a Chamber of Commerce, and you do have adjacent businesses over that have the same issue. The donut shop across the street, I'm sure he's been miserably impacted. You might go over and talk with him,
Yeah.
just see what, you know, maybe he knows something, one of the other neighbor businesses, maybe
Yeah.
they have a handle on this that you've missed.
Yeah, it's just been a bummer that the bridge construction's right there, and, you know, they have a giant excavator, literally, I've had so many customers come up to us and be like, are you guys closed? Because it looks like we're closed. I put an open sign, a big one of those flappy open signs out front, you know, we're doing what we can. but-
I'd get a well permit and go to Texas, get one of those horizontal drillers to come up.
Yeah. No, we're starting to look into it. I mean, honestly, it's probably what we need to do at this point, is just get off town water, because for the longevity of the business. But,
Okay.
all right. Thank you for your time.
Let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in. Okay. Mr. Truax, Northwood Estates update of plans, sir. If you-
Yes, good evening.
You're welcome. You can stand up at the podium there, or
Yes.
Scott, do we have any,
I don't have an easel.
stuff?
They were left
This is
here.
up in North Walpole, right?
Yep.
Okay, I think I've seen this in the planning
You
board.
know where they all went? They was left down here.
What are you looking for? An easel?
Well, we brought the chairs.
No, just one with, it's fine. You guys can all see it, right?
I can't see that.
You can't see that? You want me to come over there next to you?
will you be blocking the
No, I'd
community
like
television?
I'd like the plans.
Oh.
You could-
I-
you
I
could
got
walk
it.
up there.
I could.
Yeah, He's gonna get you a
I
plan
want the
there.
plan.
May
I'll
not
share
be in
them.
color.
Yeah, you're not gonna get color. You're gonna get the
Give him a crayon.
Okay.
that sheet, no, that's my own sheet. You're gonna wanna go,
Now, you know what I'm looking for here. You know why I want to see
you're
the
gonna see
plan?
where I'm putting the septic systems?
No,
No, we don't care about
No.
that.
maybe,
I
but
know what you.
I'm interested in making sure there's, a grid
We're gonna give you a grid.
where it doesn't, where all these don't wind up going into dead ends.
They don't, none of them.
Well, that's what we're here for,
Perfect.
right?
So this is up off Delaney Drive, and for the record, I'm Rob Truax, Geo and Engineering Consultants. So this is Delaney Drive right here, and this is Dover Drive. This is the last piece of land that the Walsh family owns, you know, Walsh family from North Attleboro, or Attleboro rather, Jack Walsh was the contractor who built this area. So we've been in the planning process for about a year now. Mr. Walsh passed when I started the project, he passed away, and then I've been working with his boys, his son, this past year to finish this project. We sat down, we met with Rick Mattson, we met with Carl, DPW, we met with the conservation, way back in the beginning, and we all agreed about water and sewer and how we were gonna connect. So this is Heritage Drive up on the top here. I can't think of the name of this right now, it's probably on your locust map on there, at the top of the street. But this is a paved road, gets paved right up to the property line, and there's water, and there's drainage and all that right in the street. The water line comes up right to the end, there's an 8-inch line that they put in. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna loop all the water lines in the project. So we have a dead-end street here, it's just over 700 feet in length. We're gonna bring this water line up, the stubs are already in place. We're gonna come up here, move up the lot line, come all the way down, and connect that connection up off Delaney Drive, so we'll have that loop in place.
Indian Lane.
Indian Lane, thank you. And then on Dover Drive, what we're gonna do is we have the stubs here as well. We're gonna bring that line up through, create an easement, and bring that up to the High Street water line. So we're gonna connect there with the loop. And as far as the sewer goes, there's sewer stubs all on the site. There's a stub that comes in off Dover, so we'll bring that sewer. That sewer is actually gonna get extended. So we're gonna bring that up into the cul-de-sac, and then we're gonna run it through that same easement, and we're gonna bring it to High Street. We're gonna end it right here at High Street. So I did for Carl, for the engineering department, I did a centerline survey of High Street all the way up to, what is that? What's that street where it kind of turns around?
Homewood Lane?
Yeah, so we can't get to home with gravity, but the street right before it, we can get the gravity line if the town wanted to extend that.
Heritage?
Yeah, we can get all the way up to Birch, if you wanted to ever extend that sewer. So we're gonna bring it to here, it's about 8 or 9 feet deep, and it goes uphill, and you can, if you ever wanted to extend it in the future or somewhere else, it can get all the way to Birch by gravity. So I gave a profile of that to the engineering department of town. It's not in the subdivision set. But- So we're gonna get the sewer at least to here. I mean, it only provides sewer for us for this one house. We're only having one house come in off High Street. We're asking for a waiver of the subdivision regs for this little area to eliminate one house and end up with just, we had 2 houses here, and now we're gonna go down to 1 in lieu of building a full road. But we are still gonna bring water and sewer all the way up to High Street. And then we're gonna bring, obviously, this one will just come up to the end of this.
Is that gonna be a regular road?
Huh?
Is that gonna be a 26-foot road, the other one?
This one?
No, the other one.
This one? All of these are 26. These 2 are
Okay.
26.
It's just the one
Just
house?
a little one over here. Gets a
And is that
driveway.
considered a common, it doesn't have frontage, right? It's,
There'll be a paper street. So there'll be a little bubble, won't build it.
yeah.
We'll do some drainage in there, like a little drainage basin.
So when you bring the sewer to High Street,
Yep,
there really isn't sewer either way from that point. It makes it available
makes it
to
available,
the town.
correct. You'll own it. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, this will be granted, this easement, this sewer line, and easement over this private way will all be granted to the town of Walpole.
What'd be interesting, and you may not want to do this on your time, but it'd be interesting to see from the other Walsh development where the sewer is on High, it butts into High Street, the High Oaks.
This is,
Going, what's that, I'm trying to say, what way is this? High Street is actually running east and west, right?
there is a road right here, what's that? What's this road?
Can we have a
High Oaks,
sewer
you
map?
High Street and
here?
Millbrook.
It's High Street, Millbrook,
Millbrook.
Ridge Road,
Behind you,
Coach.
what's that one behind you?
This is a water aquifer.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
water.
Which road are you looking at?
Yeah, I know we
Coming
have
up
the
high,
map
it's
that has
about
all the
high
sewer
Oaks.
names. We don't have one here.
High Oaks.
Where's High Oaks?
High Oaks.
Up
High-
here? Off Homewood?
High Oaks is
On
off
the-
of High
on the
Street,
High
it goes
Street.
all the way down to,
Yeah, that's it.
there's about 40 homes in there.
Millbrook.
Well, it goes from High,
Where-
it goes
where
from
does
High
this
Street to
sewer
High
go?
Street again, that's all the way across, Millbrook Ave.
Doesn't that go, yeah, that goes down to Millbrook, right?
Yeah.
Millbrook, yeah.
So there's sewer in there.
Yes.
So I'm just saying where, so I'd love to see how far that point is on High Street, where you're bringing sewer, to where the next sewer would be accessible going,
Oh, I see.
hooking into
Well, we-
High Oaks.
All I did do a profile of High Street. I surveyed that,
Going other way, I think
the other
High
way.
Oaks, yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Because we have a
That's
letter,
downhill though.
Yeah.
we have a letter in our packet discussing with certain neighbors in some of those Chickering and some of those streets up there, if they're interested in a sewer extension project. So it'd be good to have this on them, to be able to see where,
I
you know.
did give engineering a profile of High Street all the way up. I don't know if that helps you or not helps.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, he asked us to do that when we were in the meeting. You know, Mr. Walsh is very cooperative about working with the town on this stuff. This is his area. He developed all this, so he was more than happy to do the loops, get the sewer up there.
Is this the last land they own here? Is there any other
Yeah.
lots they own here?
No, this is it. We also, this easement was never granted. There's an easement here, existing. The sewer comes from Heritage, comes down through and goes into Sunny Rock. So like, we can't find record that that was ever deeded, so that will get deeded when the roads get accepted. So we'll get this easement deeded to the town as well.
From Heritage to the dead end of Sunny Road?
So that's just dead end.
Yeah.
What is that, sewer and water?
No, this one's just sewer. There's no water going up there. I would assume the water dead ends in Sunny Rock.
Yeah.
This was just a sewer easement through these people's property.
But you have, we have the sewer easement from the property, but not from Walsh, is that missing?
Yeah, you don't have this piece.
Yeah,
It was never, for some reason, never granted.
but it couldn't carry the water too.
I don't think so. I don't think it was just drawn on this guy's property, it's just a sewer easement.
Easement out.
So you'd have to get it all changed and,
Okay.
but, so this will get looped from here, this is dead ended,
That's reasonable.
and we'll bring it down to there, and then this one will go over to High Street.
So is the two lots that come out to the street here, Dover and Delaney, their sewer will flow, and the one that's by itself, the sewer,
All the way to here.
oh, okay, so it's going
And
that
this is
direction.
gonna be gravity from High Street to Dover Road.
Oh,
This is
okay.
the gravity line. We're gonna run it down the road, through an easement, and
Okay.
then down the road.
Yeah, I understood on the water, and I wasn't
The
sure.
water's gonna do the same, through
Yeah.
the same easement, and go up to High Street.
So everything will be on existing sewer, and you've just done some other work out on High Street?
Well, we're just gonna bring the utilities
Yeah,
up to
and I
High Street,
understand, I
so the town
appreciate
will
that.
have them. And then this one will get looped up. This sewer ends here, but the water will continue
Yeah.
over the little stuff there. So everything gets looped. And that's it.
Okay,
Sunny Rock, at the end of Sunny Rock, the easement, right?
Yeah,
Where does it go?
goes up to Heritage,
It goes to where?
Heritage Drive.
Heritage, how does it get there?
There's an easement across this guy's property.
Okay, it didn't show on there, so.
Yeah, it's not mine.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I think you have that easement.
Okay, then let me pass this down.
Have we been asked to, by the planning board, to comment on this? I just don't recall. Do you, Scott, remember?
You would've got a submission from them, whether you.
Well, usually we do, and that's what I was trying to think.
That's why we're here.
Yeah,
We want your blessing, we want you to send a letter to the planning board.
okay,
yeah.
everybody good? Good. Very good, thank you.
All right.
So,
You don't vote this, you guys, how do you do that?
we're just gonna vote to send a letter, I think.
Well, usually, the
The
planning
planning
board
board.
sends a list to all sorts of committees and whatever, and then we respond, you know, after having looked at it, or sometimes we say we're waiting for engineering's comments, and then we would respond.
We got their letter, and I think we didn't really have clear plans, and so the response was, have you come in, just so we're comfortable with the plan. I think that's what happened.
Okay,
So now we would
Now
send-
you can send a letter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
All right, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Okay.
holiday, everyone, thanks.
yeah.
you too.
Okay, wanna do that? Wanna vote to send a letter to the planning board?
Yeah,
Or-
I mean, I don't,
Okay.
the fire chief knows.
Well,
They've
that's
all
up to him.
checked it.
He sends his own letter.
As far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
it looks,
So I make a motion that we send a note to the planning board regarding Northwoods Estate, that the engineer has appeared before us, and that the board is satisfied with how the sewer and water systems are being laid out, and
condense that.
Okay,
Second.
we got a second.
okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained, 500. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Moose Hill Road sewer abatement request.
I think this is something, just our standard practice. We were able to identify water that didn't get into the sewer system, and it looks like Mary's figured it out, that there would be a potential abatement of $197.48. And she's looked at prior history, as we typically do, to determine unless somebody sees otherwise, I'd make a motion that we abate $197.48 for a sewer abatement.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Opposed? Abstained, 500. Thank you. Okay, we have correspondence. We have the revenue numbers. Bill, do you have any comments on those, or anyone else?
No, it,
Correspondence one?
yeah.
We are
You know,
already
what my plan would
halfway
be,
through.
once we get to halfway into the year, to look and see where do we stand, based on what we expect to, based on the rates. So, but we're getting close, as you know, December is coming quick.
True.
The water looks okay, like we already at 2.1 million.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. The sewer is.
but you
at 1.1.
wanna remember that this is, spring and summer water. We are coming to the period, and you can see it easier on this chart, where the production goes down. Other than filling skating rinks, it's just inside water use.
Okay, do we take a look at correspondence two?
So we do have more pumping numbers this year compared to
Oh,
last
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And then, as far as the memo here on supplemental water supply,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there's a couple things. What I did is I looked at the criteria that the MWA would look at, and basically went point by point. If I knew the answer, I put it down. If I didn't know the answer, I said I didn't know the answer. A couple of things later that I thought that we could mention was the PFAS. We don't have a problem right now with the PFAS, but we should make note that we have, is it just one or two wells that are over the limit?
There's
Even
two.
though we're,
Excuse me, what you're saying is not true. We do have a problem, and it's being managed.
no, I understand, but in terms of that we don't have a problem that we're exceeding the limit that's going out into the distribution system.
Only well,
Yeah, I know, I understand.
what, I
Yeah,
don't know,
okay,
is
well-
that, how often do we exceed the limit?
We've never exceeded the limit going into the distribution system, never.
We've never gone to 20
No.
No, that's,
because you've taken wells offline.
Even before we'd made any modifications to the system, it was below 20 parts per trillion. And the reason we made modifications is to make sure it stayed that way, to get it as low as possible.
Okay, so if
We've
you
never
hadn't
had
done
violations.
something, it would have exceeded.
Not necessarily,
But why did you do those things?
to make sure we didn't reach that point. In fact, you had asked having the well shut off, I believe,
Yes.
Washington 2 and Washington 3.
I know.
but the reason I just mentioned that if we, and I think we should hire an engineer to do this, this is not going to be something that you can create a table with like I've done.
right,
That there's something that one would look at and say, well, you don't have a PFAS problem. And if you look at the map on the package here, the late package, they have a chart of where the PFAS problems exist. And we are listed as not having one, and as has been explained. However, if we're making our case, you would want the engineer to be able to say, you know, that there is, what, is it 2 wells, Scott, or just one? Is it 2 and 3?
Washington 2 and Washington 3.
Yeah, so,
And
that-
they exceed.
yes, that's what, so you would want to make mention, even though, according to the state requirements, we don't have a problem.
but as Patrick says, only
Yes.
because we proactively mitigated.
Right, and,
So the proactive mitigation.
but I'm just bringing it up is that if,
Did you send this to Rebecca Weldman?
no, no.
Would you please do that, or you want me to?
No,
do
no,
it?
I think that the reason, this is not our application.
I know,
Yeah.
I understand.
No,
But this
I,
is what's happening, okay? They have predetermined certain things, like Ipswich water basin.
right.
They definitely are concerned with that. And you read the report, there's different basins. They
Oh,
weren't
yeah, yeah,
concerned
there's
with that
3
one.
areas, and that's why I say, hey, we're not on the chart here.
That's right. So what I'd like to do is make sure that we have notified them, because this is fine, what you've written here, and so it's on the record. That's all.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you
I
don't wanna
think
say
that,
that's
well, I
fine.
think that we're sufficient that and Rick we've seen Rick's letter in there that, yes, we are doing it, has a formal notice, and we can keep them informed, but I wouldn't, this was really just for our use, so we know where we stand, and I'd like to just go through it. But
Okay, before you do.
what I didn't list was the PFAS, and I'd wanna just add that, here's what I would tell our engineer, whoever we hire, this is, you know, something
Okay,
that,
the need for an outside consultant. one of the things in my conversations with the lady there was that, oh, you may need to hire a consultant if you're going to make application
Yeah,
to the MWRA.
We're already doing that.
yeah.
We're already looking at a consultant,
Huh?
yeah. We are already looking at a consultant.
And you know, do you have any idea what it would be?
A couple come to mind, possibly Weston Sampson.
Okay.
Those who have familiar.
Could I say something to you? Maybe it would be wise to talk to this lady, ask her who she recommends,
We already did.
and who does she recommend?
They won't recommend anyone. They say they can't recommend
But, you know,
anyone.
Rick.
They said,
Rick,
talk
I-
to the towns. Well, this is like, we're
I
going
attempted
backwards
to
here.
talk to,
We've already been through all this.
I,
We already talked to them, we did this, that, the answer was talk to Ashland and Burlington, find out where they use as consultants, and use consultants that you're familiar with from your town. They would not recommend one. So we've been beyond that, so we threw that in Rick's hands about 3 meetings ago. So he's getting a consultant, so we're down the road on that one already. I think what's coming up, just so, since we're in the middle of this, so just, maybe there'll be some clarification. Our liaison person with the MWRA is Catherine Ronan. And I think you've maybe talked to her or seen
no, I haven't talked
correspondence.
to her.
Catherine Ronan was on the call with us. She works under Rebecca. And she has suggested that we have a Zoom meeting, although she doesn't say Zoom, she says WebEx
Yeah,
meeting on Wednesday, November 30th at 10 PM.
I can't make that, but
It's 10 PM, she says here, which is in the evening.
that
10
can't
a.m.
be right.
PM's in the night.
Well, I know, she
All right,
might
I'll
be
be
in
in
there.
I'll be in my jammies, but
She's
I'll
from the
make it.
state.
I may not have the video running.
So I'll find out, but I think it is 10 AM. But I think if we could,
Yeah,
we can vote this evening to have a meeting, an executive session, whatever you want to call it, with her on the computer on that date, and we can get filled in on the steps and make sure that Scott and whoever on the staff, Rick, whoever's going to work on this, are there and available to listen in, so everybody gets on the same page. Jim Johnson is on the page. I, put him on this. And we have to, in one way, I guess we have to impress her. What happened with that last meeting is we couldn't have a meeting because of the open meeting law or whatever. So I think they got the
But this
impression.
wouldn't be a meeting, though. This would be a WebEx.
Please, it's gonna be a meeting. They got the
No,
impression we had a weak interest because there was only 2 of us on the phone. They were expecting to meet the whole commission and representatives of the town. So I'm not gonna make that mistake again, Patrick. We're gonna have a meeting. This is gonna be a meeting. It's gonna be posted, so all of us can attend that want to. And we can ask our questions, listen to what the staff is doing here. Jim Johnson, I encourage him to be on this call, so they know we're serious and what the town administration is doing, what the steps are, what we've done, who we're thinking, who we have or thinking of having as a consultant. Maybe we'll have one by that time, so that we get this train on the tracks and start rolling. So I would like a vote that we agree to have a special posted meeting with Catherine Ronan on the 30th of November at, we'll say 10 a.m. And he'll.
so
like it-
moved.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any other comments?
You just
No,
want to have
my
the
comment
meeting,
is, I know I can't make it.
You could meet at
I'm
your
incumbent. I already
office.
told him
I'm
that.
fine.
Okay.
I've said in your motion, just say that we want to have a meeting with them. Date and time will be decided.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's a good point, yeah. We're gonna have a meeting at the mutually scheduled time. We've already,
Can you
it's
make
moved
it?
and seconded.
Yes, I moved.
Well, this is the questions now. Can you make it?
No, so that's what I said, like, we just
For that?
make a motion to meet,
Yeah, can you,
and the
can you
actual
meet at
schedule and
that
date we can decide, yeah.
specific time and date?
Most probably, yes, but,
Okay.
yeah.
Commissioner Fisher?
It all depends on the time.
Huh?
It all depends on the time.
Time.
10
It's
PM
10
versus
o'clock
10
and-
Eastern.
On November 30th.
I can't believe that they're doing a 10 PM meeting. That doesn't
I
make
know I
sense.
can't make it, but that's
Well,
okay.
well, I would just tell you, these people, shouldn't say this probably, they're very, working with the state, they're not in the office, there's cobwebs on the doors, they all working at home, they work at their own pleasure, they work at their own hours, and they don't care if you get delayed for a year. So, we gotta kinda dance to their music on this, if we wanna get this thing going, I mean, if you people wanna suggest a
Is there a
different
motion on the
time,
floor?
we'll get an alternative date.
That's seconded, didn't you say that?
What's that?
There's a motion on the floor that's moved and
Exactly.
seconded?
And I'm looking
Okay.
to see if we wanna, all right, so we're gonna,
So,
Pradeep had an amendment to that. He was gonna make, we're gonna try to do a meeting with them, this date or the best alternative to this date.
That's on the.
Can you make it a motion to have a meeting at a time to be determined, as long as
Yes.
it's posted
Yeah.
within?
Yeah.
Yes, and remember, we need to post it
Right.
2 business days in advance and all that sort of stuff, so we don't run afoul. So let's vote on that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, okay, 5-0-0. So
Getting
Brenda-
back to
Yeah,
the
I'm sorry.
correspondence, the other item that is not listed here is, you know, the other towns are able to show, like particularly the case of Ashland, which, by the way, I did call, and I know Rick has been in contact with them, and you never get a response back from them, unfortunately, but it's not that we haven't tried. Anyways, but in those 2 cases, they had been getting emergency water, and if you look at the first item, their criteria is, you know, how much have you been getting from the MWA? Because typically, they've previously been making emergency connections. You know, we haven't done that, but one of the things that I think that we should let our engineer know is that, by my count, there is, I think I figured 651 residents of projects that are either underway, in the case of Renmar Road and whatever, and the 55 Summer Street project, and other, you know, 40Bs, there's the Friendly 40B, the Gilmore site, and whatever, if you add them up, that's a significant increase in our customer base. So while we don't have a problem today, and we have, you know, and I asked you, Scott, with the drought, did we ever have a problem filling the tanks? And the answer was no. And I said, well, how about last year and the year before or something? And it's not been an issue, but I think that we would want to make sure that the MWA knows that we're being proactive, and these developments are going to come.
So, one of the things that you just mentioned about us being able to meet demand, it's also not about just us meeting demand, but being on a stress basin.
Well,
So-
that's further down on the list here. So that's on the first one. We have not abandoned any water source, so that's clear, and they don't want you to. The issue of no local source that's feasible, I mentioned about Manbrook 4, and that's where I mentioned about with the SWIMI documentation shows that we are, both of our sub-basins, the Minebrook and the one over here, are in a stressed condition, and they are at the category 5, which is as high as it goes. So, you know, there's an issue there, and certainly NEPRA would be in favor of us getting water from the
We
MWA.
might want to get some documentation.
Oh, yeah.
From
Well, you know,
NEPA.
that, I think you could just look at their comments on our water management permission, because they would have commented, and I know that they would like to do that.
They commented extensively.
Yeah. Documentation on effective demand measures have been established in detail. I know that our permit requires this. I'm not sure if our water management our permit covers, if it covers that item that the MWA is looking for. And that's where we really need a engineering firm who's done these things and say, I know what they mean here, we'll do it. Looking at the survey of users who've used 20 million gallons per year, I look back, and Siemens is our biggest. If you look at FY '21, which, and FY '22, they weren't at that level. But if you look at their first bill in FY '23, that would put them on a pace to be 28 million. No one else comes close to being listed. It's one of the items they want. That's something that we'd be able to know. You know, we do have an aquifer protection. The breakdown of the water consumption, you know, by the different classes, that's accurate. The documentation on safe yield, production needs, contamination threats, well, certainly we can identify Route 1 as well as the railroad tracks that go by through the Minebrook area. In terms of the safe yield, I know I have something, I think it was either Wesson and Sampson or one of the engineering firms we've had our water. It wasn't Wright Pierce because it goes back a way. If you look at the safe yield of all the wells individually, there's a huge amount of water. The problem is you can't run them all at 100%, and so that would have to be identified. In terms of, do we have a water supply management that's been approved by the Water Resource Commission? That's what WRC is. I don't know if we have something that, I mean, we've been in existence for a long time, maybe we do, but I can tell you, when I looked at Burlington's and Ashland's, the comments that the WRC made just on their applications were like 25 and 30-something odd pages long. So certainly, whatever is addressed here, which is like a sentence, they're looking for a heck of a lot more. In terms of legislation, I mean, and getting it signed and whatever, that seems to me to be an easy thing. You talk to the local, and we have, I believe, 1 senator and 4 representatives. Highly unusual for a town to have that many, but certainly there shouldn't be a problem of getting the legislation and the governor to sign. The MEPA sign-off, you know, it's not clear to me what the heck they would want on that one. Again, a consultant will certainly be able to address that.
Well, I think what happens there is the MEPA would be where the connection is. If the piping, in this case, if it's on Union Street, you
Yeah.
know, I don't know if that's gonna be a location, but that's already been mitigated, evaluated conservation-wise, water.
Yeah, but they also look at the impact, and you say, well, that's the connection. But the impact of putting less stress on the Minebrook and the School Meadowbrook aquifers is a mitigation to an existing environmental impact of our wells. So, you know, it's not just, I
It's a
think it's just.
favorable, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, in approval of an inter-basin transfer, I think almost everybody who applies, it gets that. And so if that's an issue, it's an issue for everybody and no one would be connected. So I don't think that is. And then getting a majority vote of the town meeting. And one, I've already heard from one person on the finance committee who has some concerns, and I think as I started to explain them, they said, all right, I guess I understand. I think we should schedule a meeting with both the selectmen and the finance committee, because if they're definitely not, it will get killed at town meeting and then the issue's dead. But I think that we can convince them, but we even saw at the town meeting, I believe, we were all ready to dissolve the town meeting, and I think there was a motion made, never, hadn't been seconded, and a member of the finance committee, you know, had a question. So I think it's important we have a meeting relatively soon, you know, sometime, you know, maybe at the beginning of the year, just to get them educated so that it comes out, when we have an article on town meeting, that it comes out with a favorable recommendation. Because if it comes out with a negative one, it's over. Town meeting's not gonna go, it'd be very difficult to convince them with, but if we get both of those boards, and I think we can, particularly with a waiving of the entrance fee, but I would like to make sure that they fully understand, and I think it would be important that we have a meeting with those boards.
Unfortunately, I think, and I think we have to anticipate, the finance committee and the capital budget committee both, I think they look at things from a budget
Yeah.
year to a budget year kind of thing, that they think they can always kick the can down the road and come back and bite the apple next year or 2 years. And this isn't that case. That was the case just 2 years ago when we went to them and
Right.
turned us down. But they've got to be made to realize the town of Walpole's got one chance
I know,
in this
that's the
future.
thing is,
And
I
if they
think
blow this,
you wanna,
shame on them forever.
I don't want us to get to that point. I
No,
want us
no,
to
I
do
know.
a, talking to them before, find out what their issues are, and have the answers, so that when they have the finance committee addresses, and we should, that's the other thing that I think I mentioned here, we need an article, the warrant is open for the spring annual town meeting, requesting that the town backs a connection to the MWRA. If there is, and I think they're already talking about 4 articles, but they're all dealt with, you know, the sewer water budget for FY '24 and the sewer budget, that's 2 of them. And then the standard articles we have in case we run a shortfall to take the water out. But we need an article, at least 1, if not 2, like we had previously. One that just says, yes, the town's in favor, and the other to authorize any sort of funds that are needed to connect to at a minimum, if we get the approval, we're gonna need at least a meter. If not, we may have to do some work in Norwood, you know, if our usage of water from Union Street messes up their system, Norwood's gonna tell you, you wanna connect up, you're gonna have to pay to replace a pipe or something, you know, that's reasonable.
Okay, we'll get over that hill.
One of the advantages we have, first of all, there's 37 towns that the EMWRA thinks is interested. They think, that's what you saw here, 37 towns. They cannot supply that much water.
I know.
Even Quabbin can't supply it. And you'll see the no, total demands in all the 3 study areas exceed MWRA's available water supply. Okay, so they have all these towns that want to join, or they think they want to join.
They've proposed it,
and
which
yet-
they may not have expressed an interest, those towns.
They may not have, but this is what the MWRA thinks they probably should. And those 37 towns, there's not enough water to service them. But
Yes,
it'll take 25 years to bring these online, if they ever did these 35. The next thing is,
But can I use on
our
that
pro
Yeah.
in this thing is that we'll wheel through Norwood
Right.
and maybe Westwood to get into our system. And we never anticipated that we'd use total MWRA water, but we need to supplement our supply. That's one thing we have that's different from all these other towns, except for Cambridge, which just went off MWRA
Right.
water.
but
yesterday.
again, in the operations policy number 10, one of the specific things is you cannot abandon an existing supply. And, you know, the Burlington and Ashland, they went down and said, okay, this one is gonna cost you $1 zillion to, you know, upgrade it or whatever, forget it. But this other 2, you gotta keep them. So I don't understand why they listed their full replacement, because and regardless of whether, you know, the advisory board thinks it or not, it'd be foolish for the state water resource commission, anyone to say, throw away perfectly good support.
Well, that's a good question to
Yeah.
ask them.
Yeah.
Why did they do that?
The other
I
thing
think
on
they
this.
did it to sort of scare us.
Well, I think the other thing we should ask Jim Johnson to negotiate with Norwood,
He's got a meeting scheduled.
just to make sure that, do they require an article on their, you know, town meeting? Is there the wheeling rate and whatever? The other thing that was interesting in this, and it's on page 5 and 7, you know, there's no water that reaches. If you're gonna address these new communities, the existing mains that come in have to be extended. And they're talking like, you know, 1.2 billion?
In 25 years.
Well,
That's
yeah,
what they told us.
yeah, that's but somebody's gonna pay for that. I'd like to know, is it all the existing, are they gonna say, oh, folks in the Ipswich Riverville, you know, here's your share of that cost, and of course, going to the South Shore, it's a
Well, don't forget, they're
equally
only
huge number.
waiving the waiver. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They're not waiving all the construction costs.
Yeah. Well, I just want to clear, because that's a question that if I was on the finance committee, I might ask. Well, are we signing up for paying for a part of this, all the existing MWA communities? And of course, ours would be a tiny share because we're
That's not
dropping the
how it
bucket.
works. It works, they increase the water rate.
Oh, yeah, which
Yes.
includes capital costs.
But they think that, don't forget, they are wasting enough water to supply the city of Boston.
Well, I know that, but they only
And the
have,
city of Boston is 1/3 of their
Yeah.
customers roughly.
the other, last item is, this only talks about the Ipswich and the South Shore. It makes no mention of the Metro West communities that want to connect. Those are the ones in green on page 2, so.
And what are we?
We aren't on the list, and that's why I'm saying we gotta let them know, and we have. So, that's all that I,
That's why I suggest we send any documents we have to these people,
Yeah.
so that we do not go off their,
so I don't know if anybody has any
Imagination.
questions on the information that either I wrote up or, that we haven't mentioned so far.
No, but, I mean, the last meeting, we did agree that we voted that we were gonna move forward with getting a consultant. Scott gave us an update,
Yeah.
so.
You know, one thing they haven't forgotten? They haven't forgotten about the sludge dump.
Well, yeah,
Do you know how many times they've mentioned that to me?
Who?
The people at MWRA. Oh, Pat, yeah, you people, yeah, you rejected our sludge dump. I said, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
We did.
It's because we
Well-
didn't have your water.
And that would be something that I'm sure there may be some on one of the existing town committees who may say, oh, you get in touch with them, that opens the door for, and it's just, you want to find out what the possible objections are and then try and get them addressed. That's why I'm suggesting a meeting.
Their objections, they've already felt that we were not worthy of getting water. There's a report, MWRA Water System Expansion Studies.
Yes, I know.
Okay, we're not even on a probable thing.
Anyways,
We're-
We would have been 2 years ago, if we'd been allowed to go forward.
Well.
We've been in front of the
well,
line.
that's town meetings, doing.
Well, I
isn't
know,
it?
now, there's no point, like Bill says, there's no
But,
point
you
in
know,
finger pointing.
We
but,
take
you
an
know.
oath to provide good water at a good price. Now, if we do all the things to do that, and town meeting thinks they know better, and they're not going to, you know, look at the future, we've done our job.
right.
Yep.
So we can't make them do something that they don't
I know.
understand.
I
But
wouldn't
they
have
have to
done
do.
all the stuff that time that I've spent, unless I thought that this had a chance of going. If it doesn't, as I've mentioned to someone else, I'm not interested in pushing a big rock up a hill that nobody wants in the end.
Well, that's,
And I'm-
you're right on target. What we have to assess is very quickly, is the sincerity on the other side. Once they hear our case, and we know that they understand our case, to find out the legitimacy and the objectivity they're gonna have to look at this. Because basically, we're telling them, we'll be the first one in, you can hook up and we'll help you use some of that water you've been pumping to waste for the next 25 years where you're building these other pipelines. We're gonna be in there
Yeah,
making you money and using water that's going in the ocean.
yeah, this,
In the Connecticut River.
Yeah,
I
Connecticut
think
River.
there are a few communities that will be like Walpole that are adjacent to a community and, but from from the MWA system, they're saying there's like a whole bunch of communities, makes sense to have a huge water line to get into the center and, but anyways,
Well, that's government, big government. That's the way big government thinks. They like big projects, they
Did
don't
you
like
call
small
up that guy, the
projects.
superintendent?
anyways, if we're, we can move on to the next
Yeah.
item I sent in.
Go ahead.
And this, on correspondence 4, I was surprised, I think early, maybe at our rate hearing, to discover that a lot of our septic facility uses from towns other than Walpole, and when Scott provided me some information, and I was just surprised at how many other towns are using and how far away some of them are. And there's currently 4 haulers who make regular use, and I did actually look at a couple fiscal years, but I just of information, because I think the rest of the board was probably in the same state of knowledge on where the stuff was coming from.
Well, does this, is this as a feature of where we're doing a little bit above and beyond for the MWRA?
We had to have a facility, if you remember, John. Originally, we were gonna build a much bigger facility because we also handled towns like Medfield, Norfolk, Foxborough, and whatever, who weren't in the MWA. And they said, no, it can only be an MWA community. And my thought at the time was, well, that's just gonna be Norwood. Everybody's got sewer, you know, so we ended up with a much smaller facility. And other than, I found a couple cases where some gallons snuck in from a non-MWA town, but you look at all of them, they're all MWA, and none of them are gonna build a facility like Belmont, and this was as of the first 5 months of the fiscal year, 5 loads. I mean, they're not gonna do, you know, something like that, because we're handling, you know, in the first, I think it's around about 800 loads in a full year, and, you know, close to almost 1 million gallons.
Well, I think that's what I was getting, and I'm not familiar with this at all. How many other towns have septic facilities?
So
Well, we know Taunton does, but they're not in the MWA.
Because the guys, when they were coming in and talking about the hours, it tells them they have to drive to Helen back if they can't get into Walpole, because there's nobody around here.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a service we're providing for the MWRA.
Yes.
We may not perceive it that way, but it is. We're fulfilling a need that no one other towns can,
Yeah.
doing.
Anyways, this is more of a point of interest of how far, we don't have, in a prior year, Clinton, which is like, it's actually on the map here.
North of Worcester.
This is a long, long ways that a hauler has gone out there, you know. But anyways,
They might have done an install and they were doing a pump on the old
Could
system
be.
or something.
could be.
Scott, any idea how this compares to prior year usage?
It's much lower.
Much lower?
It is lower
Much
for, but
And then
I,
this only includes the first 5 months, so it doesn't include the additional rate increase. The penny we went up again.
well, this would be, no, this is information 5 months into the calendar year, so you're right, it doesn't. I do have information for the prior 2 years and could produce a similar list. That's why I was saying it was been around 8, instead of 300 and something, it's around 700, 800 loads that were handled in a complete year.
With the increased hours, have we seen more traffic?
I don't think there's been enough time to take effect. But as far as the calendar year, I have that on my computer. I can get that information to you. And that's something that goes into the annual town report every year. So I believe last year was 2.9 million.
Is something.
Yeah.
I've already got the 2 prior years, full complete years, and I also, I think if you gave me the most recent, I can at least get it up through October. If you're interested. I
There's a
can do-
huge potential to generate revenue at this site.
Yeah.
We gotta figure out how, you know.
The only
increased
thing-
hours are great, you know, I know I've mentioned to you, I know you're using the staff that manages the facility for other things, but just from what I've heard, it's a pain in the neck to call and make an appointment.
Right.
You wanna be able to show up and dump, that's it.
Well-
So if we could, I mean, try it for a month, try it for 2 months. If haulers knew that it was staffed, you know, and you could just pull in and dump,
Exactly right. The faster you get in and out, the more turnaround trips you can make.
exactly.
And as it goes on,
If you gotta make a phone call and, oh, I can't be there for an hour, sorry, I went out to Millis or Medway, wherever it is.
right, even with the change in hours, we knew this was going to be something that would be a learning experience. And we might have to modify as we go along.
We're making $300,000 a year off this place. We can
Well,
make a
you
lot
want
more.
to turn into a business, I think we have a luncheon for haulers all season, all these guys, because this is,
Well, there was
nobody's,
some that didn't even wanna talk to you.
but bring them all in, we'll give them a lunch someplace, and we'll talk to them, wine and dine them, and tell them we're gonna really open this place up and service them.
Yeah.
And then get a full-time person over there for a month or two and see how you can,
Yeah.
Well, I think
Get home runs.
something.
Well, one of the things that, you know, struck me is if you look at Walpole, I mean, the percentage is, 13%, and I think it might have got close to 20 on one of the years, was, we only have a in-town rate. So we could have an out-of-town rate that's more expensive. However, I think that we
Might
would want to
scare
be
'em away.
careful, exactly, because Wind River, who has an office on Production Road,
Yeah.
because I followed one of their trucks up there, they also service our area and could easily say, Hollow, we can
That's
do
what I
it
was
cheaper.
thinking of.
But they
But
transport-
they're not here.
They go from their 4,000 gallon trucks to they transfer it into a big tanker.
Right.
And then they haul it down to Taunton, right?
Right.
No, they haul it down
The-
to, Rhode Island.
There are more haulers in place in this town, and they were absorbed by Wind River, like Bruce Scott. There was several of them that their business were kind of absorbed. So you're right, they seem to be consolidating it and moving it somewhere else in a larger delivery.
So that would be one issue of, we might want to look at having an in-town versus an out-of-town rate. Maybe it's a half a cent or something that's enough that we keep our business. You wouldn't want it to cause the thing to drop. And then we're, operating a facility for, 50 loads, it's one a week.
They would have to
Which is
remain
what the-
competitive.
Yeah, so, but anyways,
Because we did the analysis on what everybody else was charging, and, I mean, the 8 cents made sense. We were 7 cents
Yeah.
before.
anyways, if you're interested, I can provide the updated information as well as the 2 prior calendar years. I've already got it all, and I also can show by month, you can see is there some sort of cyclical, but I will have that for the next meeting.
Thank you, awesome, wonderful. All right, now we have a letter from Rick Mattson. I don't know, I guess we kind of already approved this, but this is, I guess, we should read this over, see if you, we've already sent the letter out, and what's the response date on the letter for, what's the name of the street over there? Hitching
No,
Post?
this is not related to that.
No, I know.
The correspondence 5 is to the MWA saying, we're, another letter saying we're interested.
This is us telling.
Oh, I got, this is old business, I'm sorry, this is out of order. I've got the
Oh,
wrong
okay,
letter
yeah.
in front of me. Okay, here we go.
So Rick sent this dated November 16th?
Correct.
Yeah,
Good to me.
Yeah, we had sent them a letter on November 4th notifying the
can't
director.
hurt to
and
have more than one letter.
So that's,
This
and
is
this is a result of the discussion with Jim Johnson. He's getting a little traction with that. It's good. Okay,
Just
Go
quick
ahead.
question to Patrick. Patrick, this letter went to the Mr. Stephen, who is the Director of Planning and Sustainability, and you're talking to somebody else in the MWRA?
yeah. We sent the letter November 4th to the director of the MWRA.
Okay.
And it was, and to these 2 women here, this is Rebecca Weedman, who is the environmental regulatory affairs person. She's kind of the person in charge of membership. And the person that, under her, that is dealing with us is this Katie, who we're trying to have the meeting with on the 30th, who's a liaison person. So there are a number of different names. He sent this there. I don't know exactly, I guess because the planning guy is more a technical guy. These are more like client relations people, I think, over here. They do the marketing and the,
So can we ask the town to send the letters to the all other people whom we are talking or planning to talk?
well, we are the town. We're gonna send the letters ourselves. And Rick,
Patrick, are you suggesting that we
The same.
get a copy as if there was a CC?
CC to
There
the-
was-
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
CC,
to Rebecca
okay.
and whatever,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree. I think, why not have, can we ask Rick to send a copy to Rebecca, and if there's other names, Pat, that you're, I think would be
Katie,
Katie and Rebecca, and if there's any other person, can't hurt to have more people knowing than less.
Yeah.
right.
So,
Katie
Mr. Chairman,
Ronan.
can you ask Rick to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay, that's a
yeah.
request. All right. Thank you, Bill. All right. Discussion. Jarvis Farm update.
Yeah, do we have any definitive plans? Have you seen anything in writing, any kind of plan, even a proposed plan at all for the parking lot?
I've seen the proposal that was originally presented to the board. I haven't seen anything since the last meeting about the parking lot.
Yeah, but that was part of the recreation.
No, that's not the one I'm talking about.
But we do
The back-
have a current plan?
No, what we had was the original proposal for the parking lot, and there was a problem with it because part of it was on, I believe, the conservation property. And I don't have a plan since then with modifying the plan.
Okay, could I get a copy, please, just sent to me in the email,
Yep.
all right? Because I keep, it keeps like eluding me what's exactly going on.
Okay. So is that it on Jarvis Farm meter to cash report?
Me to the kid?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, everything's right on time, 30 days, a little bit less.
Yeah, I was looking for that printout.
Did you want to see this?
Yeah, yeah. So how many days? I think we're still at 25 days late.
Yeah, they're now running either like 32 days or 27 days. They're,
It's right around 30.
yeah,
So what we are looking is, still to reduce those lag time. For 90 days billing, I don't think we need more than, 10, 15 days lag time.
I've talked to Mary about, and this is as best that she can do, operating with the system that we have and the procedures. When they make a run, it's not like, oh, everything's perfect. No, they gotta go chasing stuff down. There's still this radio stuff there. There's still issues where, we're not getting transmissions. It's not a ton of them, but that have to be investigated.
The staff is doing an outstanding job in keeping up with it, and there have been challenges with the repeaters going down, metering issues, and they've done a very good job in handling that and overcoming that, so they are doing very well.
Can they transition to a monthly billing?
No.
Okay, so that's the whole point. I think last two budget, we have seen a lot of money spent on meter upgrades. So if there is no result coming up, we don't see any, decrease in this time. It just looks like there's some other problem, and the problem doesn't seems to go away. It looks very outdated that we still takes like 30 days to generate a water bill. That's the only comment I have.
Anybody else?
I'd be interested on this Water Smart. We had something, I think I was not available when we had this group.
We did a subcommittee meeting pretty.
Oh, okay. Because I was looking and I don't really
All right.
understand other than, 8,500 seems like, well, that's about the number of customers we have.
Yeah.
But I don't understand what you get for your $2.12 and,
Scott, did you find the quote from Droptown?
So I did find the correspondence, and I believe they appeared before the board September 12th, and I don't have any follow-up as far as quote, so we can certainly follow up with them.
I thought they quoted you previous to that meeting.
Okay. I couldn't find it in my files,
Okay.
but I can contact, I believe it's Robert Burnett, Rob Barnett,
Yeah.
and see if he can get that to us.
so the only reason I wish I knew more about this, because if it, and I'm not sure what this gets us, is it gonna print, we're gonna print bills on colored paper or what, I don't know. But if it's something that's going to change the way we do things, either in our department, upstairs down at the town hall, or has some impact in the collector's office and God knows wherever else, if we want to do this, we'd have to identify where's the impact, because they're right now working on preparing the budget. And if they set the budget that operates exactly the way it is now, there's no way of getting monthly billing. Can't be done. And if we want to, it's gonna, and I'm assuming there'd be some costs that's holding it back, then that's going to mean higher indirect costs, because they're not gonna change whatever. If they have to hire somebody in the collector's office or upstairs, they get paid and it comes, and we're funded. We ought to know what the whole package is.
I think that there's a lot of ROI opportunities on this. First you get a water leak right now, you just got a text message already that says your high water usage.
Right.
and You can monitor your water usage on demand. From a, town perspective, you guys have a lot of the ability to do things in which portal is that? I don't know.
What is one?
The Water Smart portal.
Right.
But, there's,
So just to give a summary, we did see demo from WaterSmart and Drop Counter, and both are tool to monitor daily uses
Mhm.
and a lot of graphs and website and mobile apps. But those are just a tool to monitor the daily water uses or your uses across the month or years, everything. And the WaterSmart tools is much more towards both consumer and the office
Mhm.
personals. They can also manage a lot of communication and the whole dashboard in the system. The thing what you're talking about, whether they can do monthly billing or not, that is totally separate.
Okay,
The-
well, that's why I wasn't
yeah,
sure
no,
on that.
No, WaterSmart and Drop
Yeah.
Counter both are the tool for the consumer and the office people to basically analyze their water uses. They are not the billing system.
the one thing about Drop Counter though, seamless integration with Invoice Cloud, so if you're already doing online payment,
Yeah,
right from the tool, you can get right into Invoice Cloud, your account, make the payment, all that good stuff. So I would agree though, I would think WaterSmart seemed to, it wasn't just consumer, a lot more for the back office as well. Seemed to be a lot more functionality there. The other thing I liked about WaterSmart was we seem to have more flexibility in our deployment option, call it that. If we wanted to do a trial of 1,000 users versus scaling it all the way up. With Drop Counter, it was a 5-year deal at
No, you're
$8,500.
telling the other way.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. WaterSmart was 8,500,
well, that's
5
what,
years.
when I saw that number, I
Yeah.
said, that's gonna be for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep,
all our
everybody would
customers.
have the option and the ability to do it, so,
And as a cost, they looks reasonable for the kind of tool they are going to provide
Yeah.
to both consumer and the office personals. I think the ROI will be in the time saved in the phone calls, emails to the
Mhm.
consumer or to the office people, trying to find out why my water bill is so high, or the usual, the seasonal stuff. But yeah, overall, the tools are good addition. The WaterSmart have Natick in Mass,
Mhm.
they are
Yes.
using it. And the Drop Counter used to be used by Dedham, but I think they are out now. Out
I
of
wanna
that.
know why.
He said that the person who was promoting that tool, they retired and then
Ah.
the town canceled it.
Well, I guess the point I'd wanna make is budgets are being developed right now, and almost any change you make causes some increase in work, which means that and whether it's a little bit that they said, no, we can do it, or maybe you go, no, I'm gonna need, and I just don't know the answer.
Yeah.
But I just know that at this point, budgets are being prepared, and if you come in June, when we're doing the rates, too late.
No,
That
that's,
ship is,
that's
you
fine,
know,
but
sailed.
these two tools are not about billings. They are about giving the tools to the consumer and
Yeah.
the office.
And the back
back
So if we
office.
look at WaterSmart, your $30,000, that covers your licensing, plus your implementation costs. And then there was an additional, the full seamless integration to Invoice Cloud, that was an additional $6,000. And we could negate the 8,500 if we did our own advertising around the product and all that kind of stuff, so. The other thing on the WaterSmart, and if you guys wanna see it, she set us up a test account.
Mhm.
So we have a kind of a dummy back-end system, you guys can play around with it if you want. So if you wanna share the credentials
I will.
to the team, they can go in independently and take a look at it.
Especially it's a URL, you have a login name,
Yeah.
a password that we'll provide, and you can basically work through the system and test run it,
You can
basically.
navigate it.
So, yeah, I'd be interested in seeing it. I mean, I think that without seeing it, that there'd be potential use in, Mary's people. I don't know how many of the, 8,000 customers are gonna I bet there'll be a segment whose interests get a smartphone. Yes, I wanna look and see, and they look at it a couple times and, oh, okay. And there'll be a whole set that don't wanna use it, but,
Or every time they get summer bill, they
Yeah.
run.
so, but it'd be interesting I'd be interested to see
Yep.
what, because you're right, I mean, if 30,000 is not on a $6 million operation,
One of the questions that
if
was
it
asked
helps, sure.
was, are they seeing a ramp up over time as, newer users come on that are younger, more familiar with technology?
Yeah.
And they said definitely that they're seeing a ramp up over time.
You said Natick uses it?
Yeah.
I mean, I just know that there are people that, you get them in there and they get the blue screen of death, and I don't even know if anybody gets those anymore,
Yeah,
I don't know what to do, and they call, Mary or Julie or Derek, that's a concern as to who's making those things, and then starting to, oh yeah, we just put this thing out and we can't get the bills out in a month because we spent, lots of time
Yeah.
answering questions that really,
These guys entirely host the platform, support the
and so they would be
platform. We don't
the
do it.
support,
We
no,
don't, yeah.
that would be good, because that would be a concern I'd have. And that's why I was wondering about
Yeah,
Natick.
these are the more of extra tools,
Yeah,
and the more of their use case was that reduce the back office calls.
well,
So
that's,
a
that's
main
what,
use case.
part of the time that it takes 30 days, there's a number, it's not just one item, but there's a number of things, and every time I'm up there, somebody's at the window.
Yeah.
And they're explaining, and it just takes time.
And from a UI perspective, they can match, kind of the look and feel of our website,
Yeah.
logos and all that kind of stuff, so.
All right, well, that'd be interesting.
So, I don't think there's a motion to be made, but Scott, can you see if you can find the drop counter quote? Also see if he'd be willing to do a test account for us.
Sure.
So we can take another peek.
And actually, what I'll do is I'll ask him for an updated quote, because some time's gone by.
Yep.
See if he can update it for us.
Okay.
Okay, moving along then to old business.
Just
Oh, what about
one other
water
thing,
spot?
one other
I had a
thing.
couple of
Okay,
questions.
go
on
ahead,
that
I'm sorry.
contract. We've got text one.
Yep, Jeff has a.
I had one other thing. Is this the type of thing we should get some input from Mike Donovan? From just, he owns technology from a,
Certainly.
town perspective. Is it worth, getting him to at least,
I think it would be good to get his benefit, it would be beneficial to get his input, because this is what he does,
Yep.
technology.
awesome.
There's a 5-year contract with this company, right, Scott?
Yeah.
And now, they do, basically, this is software, right? But, see, I'm not familiar with this thing. A water smart platform, what is that?
That's the
That's-
product we're buying.
That's the actual,
Product.
okay. Now, we pay like $30,000 because they had to set it up the first year. And then we start to pay,
It's $12,000.
huh?
$12,000 for the setup.
Right, but then we start to have to pay, it keeps escalating up for 5 years. And so this is the, but then it goes to customer letters. That's not part of the platform?
No, that is for, so when we decide let's say we want to go forward with this. One of the things they'll do as a service to help with adoption of the product and get people to sign up for it is to help us do custom letters, get them out in the mail, advertisements in the paper, things like that.
And so we,
It was an option. We're not
We can do
saying we're
ourselves, or
buying
we
it.
can take it their service. That's-
so we picked that option.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is already signed and sealed?
No.
No, no.
Okay.
I do
So,
have another question. Right
you know,
now, if I
uh,
want to monitor my water,
Are they
the way
gonna
that
come in? Are they the
anybody
ones
knows,
that
is
come
I've
in?
got that little
No,
antenna,
drop
which is,
counter.
Huh?
radio
Drop counter
wave
had
or
a
whatever,
Zoom platform
They-
presentation?
Is the one that
they're
came
going,
here?
Yeah, that was drop
going
counter.
to
This is water
receive the
smart.
information
Can we have
from,
another
or are we
person?
replacing
I'm sure we
They're
could.
integrated
Huh?
with
I'm sure we
our.
could.
our existing
as a subcommittee
KP system?
Yeah.
and reviewed this
Okay.
for us.
They're gonna have access
They
to
think
it,
this
be
is
able
the
to
best one?
grab the data
Yeah.
when they want.
Gentlemen, you checked both of these companies, right? We never saw these people in person. We saw the other company in person.
No, we saw him virtually.
Huh?
Everybody was virtual.
Zoom call.
Oh, that's right.
The date will stop.
His face was right there.
It's gonna-
This is the best company you folks.
No, we like the drop, the other one. Drop counter was good too. But we want an updated quote.
Or do they use these?
We need an updated quote from the other company.
Okay, so right now you're recommending,
Nope, we're not recommending anything.
all right, that's what I need to know. This is
We
just,
also want to have
thank you.
a test platform that we can run on.
If he,
If you can.
yeah.
Okay, that's all I need to know. One more thing, Scott.
Sure.
Secretary,
Yes.
I'd be
Old
concerned
business.
about going.
what's
There's
the
this-
status of our secretary?
If the source of the data
Well,
was
it's not on here, but that's up to you.
sketchy,
Why?
it's like probably like
Old business for the
95,
secretary.
99% of the
Yeah,
time.
secretary.
But that one,
Old business.
5% of the time.
That's an old
there's
business that
phone
we,
calls
well, something
and
nobody
call
put it
the
on.
office because
Okay, so that's why I
Who
don't have
else?
it on my
It's a
agenda.
water, let's call the water.
I got it on mine. It
It
says
is?
secretary. What's happening with the secretary?
That's up to the board. If you want to go back,
Well, have you advertised?
I have not advertised on
Well, who's gonna advertise?
Town that's using
it.
it.
If you want to either go
Franklin's one
back
of those uses it.
with the applicants you already have, or you want to
Just
expand it to a
keep
new
the people happy.
Yeah.
You know, give
round
that option to
with
kind of.
advertising.
Well, the position was filled, so I think we need to re-advertise.
Yeah.
Be interested.
Okay.
Look,
I think Rick told me he was gonna do that.
they'll be able to.
We could check with
Yeah,
personnel,
they're
see if
using
they've,
water
uh,
in there too.
Yeah.
Well, let's get this thing moving again.
They're knowing, saying.
And then they
I
can
saw
steal our
this in the
secretary
water.
again.
That's usually it's a.
Okay, moving right along, we'll go to old business. We have, first, the Boston Providence Highway, High Plain Street area plan from Waluka Real Estate.
What about, what was that there?
So that's in the packet here, that's this document here.
Yeah, what about?
And is there any other material with this, or just a copy? of
No,
the
this
plan?
was something that I believe the individual that's presenting said he would drop off paperwork to you, an 11 by 17 plan. I
Yep.
believe this is what that is.
Okay,
Yeah, this is difficult, this thing is difficult. You see how it interacts with Interstate 95?
The water is going out of the town, we get nothing from it. So, as far as I can see, from that point of view, it's no, I clearly stated that, and others may have said, and they haven't come back.
Does he want water for this?
Yes, they do.
They want the fire protection.
And I don't care whether it's a fire
No,
protection,
that's
their
what it
retail
is.
store, whatever, and I'm hearing what they're planning on doing, and I can't imagine that it's not gonna be
How do
more
we,
water.
okay, since we're getting nothing out of this,
Yeah.
right? And town meeting doesn't want us to be selling
Yes.
water unless we say so.
Yeah.
Why would we even entertain this?
That's why I said no, and we haven't heard back from them. I don't know if they're, thinking about how they can do it otherwise, but I think they got the clear answer last meeting that, no, there wasn't anybody saying, oh, yeah, let's take a second look. There was an issue about, well, the two fire chiefs want,
yeah,
well, so,
I'll reach out to the attorney there if you like, and I'll try to find out where they are in this.
Well-
I think what we were told was, if the fire chiefs were interested, they would prepare letters and something, bring
The
us
fire
something
chiefs
back, but
want
they haven't.
water.
yeah, well,
No,
Yeah,
no, they don't.
that's what he said.
Where's the-
fire chiefs
where's the
wanted-
letter?
They wanted a fire suppression.
Where's the letter?
Well, that's what he
hey,
said.
even if they do, the facility is not in our town. And if it's in Sharon and the
Yeah.
Sharon Fire Chief wants a wet sprinkler, town of Sharon, run a pipe up there and, get them water.
Okay,
So I'll find out if they're continuing with this, or whether they've just taken.
I was a little
taken the
surprised
message.
to see it come back to haunt us again.
Well, I think we asked for a plan, and we sent the plan, we haven't met since, so.
Well, I think Commissioner Abbott was correct. I think we don't, at least I don't, he doesn't see any benefit.
Okay.
I mean, I would go against town meeting if it were something that, was a great benefit to the town. But this is,
There's zero benefit.
huh?
There's zero benefit.
And the other thing, Pat,
No, I'm talking about this one.
So what about,
There's
there's,
zero benefit.
there's no
yeah,
Sharon residents living next to this facility. This is the ideal thing. you put something on an edge of your town that's going to aggravate somebody who's not a town meeting member of your town, and yet, oh, it brings in revenue. No, no thanks.
Well, you know, Sharon isn't a good neighbor anyway.
Well, I know,
You know, they just, at Siemens, at the Meadow Bellows plant.
Yeah.
I went to their meeting. They put a gigantic on-site, septic system in, right against our border.
yeah, I know, I've been to attended their planning board, I've attended their conservation, and it's always.
Knowing that they destroyed basically our water system
And
in one of our aquifers.
I always remind them, and usually I can get one member of the board to say, oh yeah, we ought to take it into consideration, but in the end, it's tax revenue coming in that overrides
And
it.
it's
Anyways,
good tax revenue.
Okay, moving right along. We have the 502 North Street billing history.
What is that?
That was something the board requested at the last meeting. They wanted to see the billing history. This is the one where.
We just had a letter, we didn't have usage data, anything.
Excuse me?
We didn't have any usage data or anything.
Right, so this is the billing history that was requested.
So,
And you had done the research, Bill, that there's 13 other properties that
Oh.
have water,
there's 13 that are sewer only,
sewer only, no water.
right.
And we don't seem to have a standard formula.
There's two ways that it's done. 10 of them come up with, there's a billing code that we use, it's like 510 or 511, something like that, and it's a fixed rate. And I sort of looked at it, it looked like it was actually more reasonable than I thought, so it might not be worth doing anything for those 10. There were, the other 3 use a regular sewer account.
And it's metered, right?
Yeah,
I believe the issue was that even though they don't have town water and they have a private well,
right,
not 100% of that private well water is going into the sewer. They're
right. There
using it
was one
outside.
case who started to irrigate their lawn, and
That is this case.
yes, and it was an issue of, what they do is they provide us here's what the water that came out, and that works okay if you're not irrigating your lawn. If you aren't, and then I started looking into, is there a way to address it? You know,
and refresh my memory, why don't we put a sewer meter on
well,
their residents?
I would put a water meter that measure the water from your well that actually is in the house, that's going into ending up in the sewer. And you would use the 220 type billing code, which is the 100% one, and that would work.
My question is,
Why?
why don't we put a sewer meter on the house?
Well, I don't,
Why don't we, at the next rate hearing, come up with a flat fee that we charge these people?
We
based
used
on-
to.
That's what I
we are
think we
doing
should
that.
do.
Yeah,
The other thing is, it could also be on them to have the burden, just like all these abatements, it's on the burden on them to prove that it didn't go in the sewer. So what they do is not a cross-control survey, but a plumbing survey, and they can show that this water is going outside onto the ground, it's not going into the sewer. But I would say that burden's on them.
I mean, we could require them not to have a sewer meter, because we don't have sewer meters. Require a water meter. Put it in your house, and any water, whether it comes from, if it comes in from your well, and that we will assume that 100% of that water that comes into
You
the
still
house.
didn't answer it. Why not just put a sewer meter on and be
Because
done
we
with it?
don't have
Or,
any sewer.
like we used to do, charge a flat fee. Remember, we used to do that?
We do that,
Yeah, but why don't we just charge
That's
a
what
flat
Jeff was
fee?
saying.
we could.
If I look,
I know,
so,
and it
my
makes
in-laws
sense.
live in Salisbury, they pay $120 a year for sewer. That's it. Every resident in Salisbury, regardless of where you get your water from.
Yeah.
You're on sewer, one flat fee.
And we can justify that by doing a mathematical,
There are ways to do it, or, as I suggested, you could tell them, and they have to do some plumbing work on their house, but hey, we need to be able to build, just have a water meter coming in, and we will associate that meter with, not with the code 100, which is a residential, we'd code it 220, and units would work just fine, you'd be billing for sewer.
When I'm talking flat
I'd like
rate,
to
I'm
make
not
a
talking
No,
a
no,
flat rate
or you could go
based
flat-
on usage. I'm talking just a flat
And that's what the 10 of them are. They all get the same rate.
So we have 10 of them doing one way, 3 doing it another.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. I would move that we develop a flat rate fee that's not arbitrary or capricious, that we can use in situations like this, where a person is on municipal sewer and has a private source of water. That's my motion. And we'll let the town figure out what that rate will be.
Maybe wise do it bedrooms.
If I could just, as far as a rate, to me, it's more of a concern of the volume of water going to the sewer. So you wanna know how many gallons are going into the sewer. You don't care how many gallons they pull out of the ground, that are going onto the ground, or they're going wherever they're doing, washing cars or driveways, or whatever they're doing with
That
it.
would be part of the algorithm.
You wanna know how many gallons are going down the sewer, which require the burden on them. They have a meter. The problem is the way it's plumbed now, every gallon of water seems like that's coming out of that well is going through the meter. You wanna branch that off so that the meter's after all your outside use. And then, once you know how many gallons are into the sewer, you can set whatever rate you want.
There are already rates, the rates are already there, if it is just.
Right.
Yeah.
You wanna know how many gallons went to the sewer.
Yeah. That's-
Right. And we have a rate code, and the case that uses this is H&B. They're the only ones who actually measure the water that goes in the sewer. In this case, we could use the same code to say, just measure, tell me how much water goes into your house, because we know that actually ends up in the sewer. So there's ways of doing it, and we can come up with something, and it might be easier to say the 3 that aren't a flat rate, assuming the flat
There's
rate
gotta
is
be an
reasonable.
algorithm to do that.
Yeah,
But I think the point is, one might be a 5-bedroom house, the other one's a 1-bedroom house.
That's part of the algorithm. That's what you.
I think the meter thing is correct, they should separate the meter going into the house, keeping
Yeah.
it, the outside use as a separate.
Okay,
If we're gonna do meter into the house, we might as well just do 85% like we do for every other rate user.
well, no, if it's a case of, and if you have an irrigation system, you get charged 100% of your water as going into the sewer.
I understand, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, I wouldn't go with the 85%, because the problem is, that we see in this case, is the person commingled residential inside water with irrigation. And that's where the thing, sort of, he got a much higher bill than he had been expecting, and says, no. So,
Did
I
Mary do
think
a
it's worthwhile to
calculation for
look
the
at.
abatement?
No. No, this is just simply the billing history.
okay.
We don't know how much water he actually used outside other than going by the past numbers.
Yeah, that would be the only way, and I
So-
think I had provided some information looking back previously, and that's why it was clear that all of a sudden they started irrigating.
This last year
Something, yeah.
dramatically, almost twice as much.
All right, so seen and noted. Now we have survey results, Hitching Post, Clarkson area. This is fascinating. There's 14 people or
I'd say it's a
13
no.
people that are interested.
Far more of them didn't answer.
I would assume, so, a no, a blank is a no in my book.
Yeah,
Because you didn't respond affirmatively, right?
right.
And I'd be concerned about if we said, yes, there's a ton of people who either didn't understand what that betterment, and they'd be signing up for something for the next 20 years, substantial amount of money. So I'd be looking, I'd say the answer's no. And maybe we'd send a letter, I make a motion, we send a letter to the people we sent to the survey, that we've gotten the results back, and there was a very small, and we could probably count up the number and say that only X% said yes, and the rest either didn't respond or said no. And based on that information, we're not gonna go forward.
We can do those.
So I'll make that as a motion.
Okay,
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Okay,
So
there's a letter here. Go ahead.
on the North Street.
Yeah.
So I think I made this comment at the last meeting. We haven't had any residents come in and ask us.
And this is.
And we have one email from somebody that didn't ask us about sewer and water. He asked us if they could use ARPA, if we would consider using ARPA funds to fund the project. So we still don't
Well,
technically have
well,
any
he's still,
money.
and she works, from her husband, who works in our office, they have asked about sewer. And I don't know if that was just to me, but anyways, there has, as far as I know, there's only been one. And I'm interpreting this as that we would be sending this letter to 111 or whatever it was, number of people in this area and doing a similar survey.
Exactly. This letter is a draft letter
Right.
of the request that was made at the last meeting
Yeah.
to invite the residents in the affected area to the Board of Sewer and Water Commission meeting,
Yeah.
time and date,
Yeah.
whenever, to express interest if they so had.
So, do you want to set a date, Jeff, or you object to that?
No.
I mean,
I hear you. I hear what you're saying. The question is whether this,
Well, I think we set a date, send the thing out, and maybe if we could establish a date, that this is what we're having, maybe we can't pick a date, but tell them it's gonna be in December or whatever, and then get notified. And if it turns out that 10 people show, then I think we don't even bother doing a survey. If we get the sense that there's a lot, then we could do a survey like we did with Clarkson and Hitching Post, and,
Do we have the meeting scheduled for 2023?
No.
no.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do something between now and the end of the
Yeah.
year. So.
okay, so we'll find a date and vote on it the next meeting, or you just want
Well,
to
is
set
there
a
any-
date up in January? and
Well, is
we'll
there
let-
any problem with sending this letter, telling them that we're planning on doing this and would have a meeting, and we could maybe say in January or something?
Yeah, but we're gonna send out a follow-up.
Well, no, let's just, we'll find a date in January and we'll put it in here
Okay.
before we send the letter. No sense
All
sending
right,
two letters.
yeah, that would be 2 letters, so I agree with you, John, just 1 letter.
Okay,
When we're ready to have them come in, and we'll get a sense of how interested the people are out there, and if a lot of people show,
So we'll hold this until we have a schedule for
Yeah.
2023.
right. So
no, we're gonna find a date. I'll call you, we'll look at the calendar and before the end of December, we'll find a date and we'll put it in the letter and we'll send it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, any other business before we adjourn? All right. Meeting adjourned, thank you.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Second.
That's a vote.